allotments for about 6 years. Well, that was quite full. I had 6 allotments. When I was 21, I started growing. So I basically done 32 seasons, right? I've grown food for 32 seasons. About 8 weeks ago, I decided that I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm just going to be doing Extinction Rebellion. So I've talked to my mates on my farm. If you don't know, I'm an organic farmer. And I talked to them this weekend, and they're buying it off me. So that's it. For the first time in 32 years, I'm going to have no land, right? That's it. And this, for me, is like one of those big steps, you know? I'm sure some of you may have made a similar step, or you're probably going to make a step. And it's scary because you're going into this unknown. One of the reasons why I've done it is because I've got this drive in me, and I know this sounds potentially a bit dodgy, but I do feel a little bit like one of those guys in the Old Testament, right? I don't know if you've read that. I can't quite remember the stories. I was brought up as a Christian, so I can half remember it. It goes something like this. There's some guy and he's tending his sheep, right? And God speaks to him and goes, "You're not going to be tending sheep anymore. You're going to go out and speak righteousness or something to the corrupt and fallen masses." You know how this language goes. So, like, I don't know whether that's, I'm not bothered whether God exists or not, but it's certainly true that I wake up in the morning with this massive drive, and it's a schizophrenic sort of thing, because most of me just wants to have a quiet life, but there's this like voice inside of me going, fuck this, you know, you've got to get out and do what you've got to do. So that's the sort of that's one of the reasons I'm here. I know there's lots of you around this space who spent 30-40 years trying to create a semi-decent world. I have too, and it's not going very well, and I don't quite know how the fuck we're going to sort it out. Okay, so I'm going to give you some ideas about what Extinction Rebellion is doing and what I think, and then afterwards hopefully you'll be relieved to know we're not going to have a Q&A, right? Because as I've been trying to say to people around the country, the days of Q&As are over. Where we're at is we're in this total fucking crisis, right? And if we don't start to emotionally connect with that, then we're going nowhere, basically. That's one of my central messages. And I'm saying that as a pretty shy, repressed, you know, mum was a Methodist local preacher, don't ever show your emotions sort of guy. But I can't like give you a nice happy clappy talk, right? Because it's beyond bad. So I'm gonna try and sort of put forward a few incoherent ideas, and then at the end we can have people stand up and say what their truth is and what their coherence is, and you can help me by becoming more coherent than I am. And what Extinction Rebellion did was it got together these heretics, and the biggest reason we were heretics is we came to the conclusion we'd have to tell people the truth even though it's going to upset people, right? So when we were in this cafe in April last year, when we founded Extinction Rebellion, what we decided to do was to tell people the truth and act as if it's real, which is even more difficult, right? So obviously, like the whole climate change industry, in so much as they knew about us, thought that this was a completely fucked strategy, right? Because as we all know, if you upset people, then you put people off and they won't be motivated and they'll just get upset and depressed and won't do anything, okay? So as it happens, that's bollocks, okay? The truth of the matter is most people get depressed and don't do anything, but some people do. And the some people that do get extra motivated are in this room today, right? The people that are getting depressed are still out there, right? In Frome or in Somerset or whatever. They're still going, I don't want to look at this because it's easier not to look at it. But a critical mass of people have decided that they do want to look at it. In fact, 100,000 people have decided they do want to look at it, which has made Extinction Rebellion the fastest growing, biggest climate change movement in this country, right? That's where we're at. One of my requests of you is if you feel you've got that voice inside you, you've got to do it, right? Because one of the things we've failed to do for 30 years is to have people stand up and get emotional in front of other people. And this is the way we're actually going to make this thing work. So what I really want to talk about is what it means to be human. And when you think about life with that intensity, you start coming up with these fundamental ideas, which is, do you want to end your life or not? And if you don't want to end your life, then you have a responsibility to be truthful to what it means to exist. This is mid-20th century existentialism, right? I read about it in my 20s. It's been my main influence. Everyone else in our culture, you know, no one talks about this stuff. But it's coming back, I can tell you. It's coming back. The death bits have been taken out. Well, why is that? Because lots of middle-class people have come into Extinction Rebellion. I'm middle class, okay? So I'm not giving anyone a hard time. But everyone knows what I'm saying here, right? They're saying, well, Roger, we don't need to talk about that, right? We just need to, you know, tell people there's a problem and sign up at the end, right? I mean, that's what Friends of the Earth has been doing for 30 years, right? Give the £3 a month and we'll sort out climate change for you. It's completely fucked, right? That's why nothing's happened for 30 years. It's because people haven't got a grip on what it means to be human and what it means to think about death. So my sort of like, what I'm trying to grapple with here is this notion, and I said this in my original talk, is everyone wants to escape death, but there's a whole tradition that says once you've actually gone into it and come out the other side, then you're a new person because you can accept it. And my proposition is nothing's going to be happening on this whole climate change crap until people have made that transition, gone to the other side, where you're going to say, I don't actually care. I don't care what happens to me anymore because I'm over this and now I'm happy to go to prison. Which is why I'm not really talking about prison, right? Prison is just the end part of the process. The real process is actually thinking about what it is to be Hugh and what you're going to be doing when you're on your deathbed. You're thinking about two things on your deathbed. You're thinking about your relationships and whether they were any good or not. And you're thinking about whether you made a difference. But it's like now I'm experiencing real history. And my proposition to you guys is you're on the cusp of experiencing real history, right? Real history, of course, is a euphemism, right? It's a euphemism for death, okay? That's what history is about. You know, terrible things happen to people and they come through it and they don't come through it, right? So in a few years' time, all those nice people in Frome and all those nice people that don't come to these talks, they're going to get thrust into it as well. And it's not going to be voluntary. It's obvious what needs to happen. We need to rebel. And when I say rebel, I don't mean a fucking brand, right? It's not, hey, Extinction Rebellion. What I'm talking about here is a rebellion, right? Look it up on Wikipedia. A rebellion means you go out, you break the law, you go to prison, you get let out, you break the law, you go to prison, you get let out. Because nothing else is important. One thing I want to finish on is the people that are going to get arrested and the people that are going to go to prison. We're the lucky ones, right? That's my proposition to you. Because we've half made that transition. Because when you've got nothing left to lose, you're free. When you've given up your farm, given up the career, when you've talked to your family and they've disowned you, you're finally free to be what you have to be.
And I don't quite understand it, right? And I'm not saying like it just goes flip one day, right? I'm feeling pretty free today because I've given up my farm, but I know in about a week I'm going to be having the heebie-jeebies again. So it's not a smooth process, but there's a process here, right? And hopefully some of you know what I'm talking about, which is you give things up, and it's central to the experience of life, right? I think what climate change is it's a sort of metaphor for what's going to happen in our life anyway, right? It's just like coming a little bit fast down the tracks. It's the same sort of thing that happens when you go to the doctor and you get that diagnosis, right? It's the same thing. Anyway, so I've just been on holiday with my kids, right? I'm not a very good dad because I think too much, right? I'm an intellectual. All I do is think. That's why I'm in this movement doing the strategy stuff, right? Because I'm good at it. But if you're good at some things, you're bad at other things, right? I'm not actually very good at being a dad. But I've just been on holiday with my kids. Yep, I'm separated from a wife. Yep, it's over climate change, right? And what I want to say last of all is at the end of the day, that's what we're doing it for, right? I'm trying to do it for my kids, and I'm trying to do it for all the kids. And I want to read you something with my glasses. It's a song by Bob Dylan, Lord Protect My Child. For his age, he's wise. He's got his mother's eyes. There's gladness in his heart. He's young and he's wild. My only prayer is, if I can't be there, Lord, protect my child. As his youth now unfolds, he is centuries old. Just to see him at play makes me smile. No matter what happens to me, no matter what my destiny, Lord, protect my child. While the world is asleep, you can see it and weep. Few things you find are worthwhile. And though I don't ask for much, no material things to touch, Lord, protect my child. He's young and on fire, full of hope and desire. In a world that's been raped and defiled. If I fall along the way and can't see another day, Lord, protect my child. There'll be a time, I hear tell, when all will be well, when God and man will be reconciled. But until men lose their chains and righteousness reigns, Lord, protect my child. Thank you.
today, I always thought I was quite brave. And it turns out that maybe I'm not as brave as I thought I was. I have 2 grandchildren. One lives in Wales and the other one lives in Melbourne. I sat on the bridge, Waterloo Bridge, with my family and my grandchild from Wales, and we played in the sunshine, and it was quite amazing, and we sang songs to the police, and I felt very happy with myself, although it was in the face of something just, well, apocalyptic. My grandchild from Melbourne and their family recently spent 7 weeks with me, having flown over here because they can't swim that far. I really want to be able to go to prison. At the moment, I can't bear the thought of not being given a visa to go and see them. But it's a short-term thing, isn't it? It might be that I don't get a visa now, and then the whole of bloody Australia's on fire in 2 years' time. So I've got to find some lady balls from somewhere and sign that piece of paper. And I also need a really big drink of something very strong.